What's up, y'all? It's Celeste, and I had double incision top surgery with Dr. Charles Garramone on October 10th of 2017, so I am now 5 months post-op. And all along, I've been doing regular updates showing my chest and talking about different aspects of recovery and stuff like that. But at this point, I don't feel like there's really that much to mention that's any different from last month. So if you haven't seen my last month update, my 4-month update, you can click up there. I'll link it up there. And I'll probably get back to those kind of updates next month when I hit the 6-month mark, assuming there's something to talk about then. But instead of that, today I decided I wanted to talk about why I chose Dr. Garramone and kind of just talk about my experience with him. I guess you could kind of call this a review of him and my experience with him. So when I first was looking into top surgery, his name was one of the first ones that came up, which wasn't too surprising because he is one of the people who has been doing this the longest. He's one of the kind of pioneers of FTM top surgery, and so he's made a name for himself. The fact that he is in Florida was really appealing to me because that's where I live, although I live in Central Florida and he's in South Florida. So at the beginning, it kind of seemed like he would be too far away because I would have to like find somewhere to stay and like all this stuff, and it just seemed like that would just end up being way too much money and was just impossible. And at the time, I didn't know who was going to help take care of me. I kind of thought I was going to have to go down there by myself, and just like, I don't know, I didn't really know what was going to happen. So after I did more research and stuff, I kind of narrowed it down to Dr. Garramone, Dr. Sassani, who is also in South Florida, and Dr. Mast, who is in Gainesville. And at the beginning, I was kind of leaning toward Dr. Mast, mostly because he's in Gainesville, and my parents live in Jacksonville. My brother lives in Gainesville. And so it seemed like I could potentially go to him, get it done, and then go back with my parents to Jacksonville and have them take care of me there, and then drive back to Gainesville for my post-op and stuff like that. And so it seemed like that would be the most convenient option. But after I did more research and like looked into him more, he had not done very many top surgery procedures at that point. I think he had maybe only done like 7 or 8. It might have been a few more than that, but it wasn't very many. He had been doing it for, I think, less than a year, or around a year maybe. So there wasn't that much to go on. And I don't think I found any results of anybody who was not on T, which at the time I was not on T and had no plans to be on T. So I didn't feel like I could really be confident about the results that I found as they pertained to what I could expect for myself. Also, none of the people really had body types that were really anything like mine. They were all much kind of bigger, bulkier guys mostly. And so I just didn't feel like I could look at those and know like I would be satisfied with the results. I do know a couple people who went to him who were very happy with him, so I'm not like knocking him as a surgeon or anything, but I just didn't feel like I had anything to really go on. I didn't feel confident about how I would feel about my results if I went to him. So I kind of crossed him off the list, and then it was kind of down to Garramone and Sassani, which at that point I was kind of like, well, I guess I'm going to have to go down there and just figure it out somehow, and figure out like what I'm going to do and stuff, but it was not going to be immediate anyway, so I was kind of like, all right, well, I'll probably go to Sassani, I guess, because he takes insurance and Dr. Garramone doesn't. And so at the time I was hoping that I was going to be able to get my insurance to pay for it. But it turned out that didn't really make any difference because my insurance deductible is like $7,000, and so it really didn't make any difference because, I mean, it made a tiny bit of difference, but by the time I paid that, it really, like, I might as well have paid for the surgery out of pocket. So it didn't really seem like that should be the deciding factor, just because it didn't make that much of a difference. And I feel like if I went to Dr. Sassani, I probably would have been satisfied. I feel like he is a good surgeon. I've seen a lot of results of his, including people who are not on T and who are non-binary, and they look great. I feel like most people that I've heard from have had a pretty good experience with him. I've heard mixed things about him, like I have with most doctors, but I think it probably would have been fine. But ultimately, I knew that pretty much from the beginning, Dr. Garramone was my first choice, just based on the results that I found. I felt like I had seen enough results of his in general to kind of get a sense of his style, which I really like his style. And also I was able pretty early on and consistently after that to find a decent number of patients of his who were non-binary and or were not on T. So I felt really confident about what results I could expect from him. I kind of felt like I could look at other people's chests who had a similar body type to me and kind of expect that would be what I would look like. And that's pretty much what happened. Obviously, there's some variation just by the fact that everybody's body is a little bit different, but his results are very consistent, which I really like that. I really liked knowing what to expect and pretty much knowing that I would be satisfied with the results, because to this point, I don't think I've ever seen a result of his that I didn't think looked good. So I just felt really confident in his surgery abilities. So that was really like the main reason that I wanted to go to him, was just his skill as a surgeon, and the fact that he's in Florida. So it was somewhat inconvenient by the fact that I couldn't just be at home or at my parents' house or whatever, but wasn't like I had to fly anywhere. So that was really nice for me. And as far as being non-binary, at this point, I think most surgeons do perform top surgery on non-binary people. I think there are maybe a few that don't, but for the most part, pretty much everybody does at this point. That wasn't as much the case even like a year ago or a year and a half ago when I was looking into this to begin with. It was a little bit more rare to find surgeons who even really talked about it. Whereas Dr. Garramone has for a long time been vocal about the fact that he performs top surgery on anybody, like gender non-conforming people, non-binary people, transmasculine people, anybody who identifies as male or whatever, like the whole spectrum pretty much. So that really is appealing to me because it's one thing to do the surgery on non-binary people kind of as an afterthought, which I think a lot of surgeons do. So I just really like that he's kind of gone out of his way to be inclusive in that regard. So those were pretty much the reasons that I chose him. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with him and whether I was satisfied, which if you watched my previous videos, you already know the answer to this. But as far as the results, I am extremely happy with my results. I pretty much couldn't be happier, honestly. I'm still healing, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to look like at the end, but like how I look right now, I'm pretty satisfied with. I mean, I really don't have any complaints. I think he did a fantastic job, and yeah, I'm really happy with my results for sure. As far as the payment aspect of it, no, he does not take insurance, but for me, that didn't matter because I have such a high deductible, and I think it's really interesting that there's this kind of controversy about the fact that he doesn't take insurance, which, like, whether or not he does, that's fine to debate, I guess. But I just think it's interesting that the controversy, a lot of it comes from this idea that it is only people with a lot of privilege who are able to pay out of pocket for top surgery, which in a way, yes, it is, because like the fact that somebody is able to save that much money obviously is some degree of privilege, because like if you only have enough money to basically survive, then you're not able to do that. But to me, the idea of having a job or having a family member who has a job that gives you the kind of benefits that you have really good insurance that you don't have a $7,000 deductible on, that's to me kind of a privilege. Like, I think maybe some people don't realize that. Not even just like in this aspect with top surgery, but in general, the way that a lot of people talk about insurance, it's like they don't understand how many people don't have insurance or don't have good insurance. The fact that your job pays for you to have insurance is like really awesome, and not everybody has that, including me. Our jobs are contract based, so we don't get any kind of benefits. We have to buy our insurance from the healthcare marketplace, which it's great that we're able to do that. And we are very fortunate to have insurance at all, but we do have a very high deductible because that's the only kind of plan that we can afford to have. So to me, like, yes, the idea of being able to pay for something out of pocket is a privilege, but I'm not exactly sure how it's more of a privilege to have to save up and pay your own money that could be going toward other stuff in your life, like that's more of a privilege than having a job where you have insurance that pays for stuff so you don't have to pay for it. Like that seems kind of more of a privilege to me, but I'm not even gonna like get into whether like one's more of a privilege, but just like, I don't know, I just think it's really interesting the way that this is talked about a lot in the community, as if having insurance is less of a privilege than not having insurance, or not having good insurance that pays for stuff. So I just kind of wanted to note that because I feel like that's a perspective that doesn't get talked about enough for some reason. I hear a lot of people talking about the other side of it, where it's like, if you don't take insurance, then you are like taking advantage of people, but that's not really how I see it. And also, Dr. Garramone's fee is actually not particularly high. I mean, it is a lot of money. It's several $1,000s. At the time I had surgery, and I believe still it is $6,500 for his fee. The hospital and anesthesia fee varies. It has gone up at least 3 times since I first started looking into top surgery. It's gone up even since I had surgery in October, but I don't think his fee has actually gone up at all in a couple of years. I could be wrong about that, but it definitely hasn't gone up in the last like year or so. If you compare his fees to a lot of other surgeons' out-of-pocket fees, like again, not going into insurance because that's a totally different thing, he's pretty much right in the middle. His fee is very average compared to a lot of other surgeons. There are other surgeons who charge less that do a great job, but there are also surgeons who charge like $10,000 or $11,000 for top surgery. And so $6,500, while it is a lot of money, is not like an exorbitant amount in the grand scheme of things. And there is a website, which is either like topsurgery.net or something like that, FTM Top Surgery. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'll link it in the description and probably put the title up here somewhere. But they have a chart of all the different, not all, but like a lot of different surgeons' fees that do top surgery. And he's like pretty much right in the middle. So I don't know, like, again, it is a lot of money, but it's not like he's on the high end, really. He's very average as far as what he charges for his surgeon fee. One of the other things that is talked about a lot with Dr. Garramone is his personality, which a lot of people seem to think he has not a great personality, or is kind of robotic is a word I've heard a lot, or is like not very personable. And that's not at all the impression that I've gotten from him. I mean, I have found him to be very personable, very friendly, very caring, and like from the first time I talked to him, which was my phone consultation, that was what my experience was with him. And I've talked to him, like obviously talked to him at my pre-op and on the day of surgery and at my post-op, and then I've talked to him at least 4, maybe 5 times on the phone since then, with questions that I had for him. So I had post-op phone consultations with him, and every time I've talked to him, he's never seemed like he was in a hurry to get off the phone or to like not answer any of my questions or anything like that. Like from the beginning, from the phone consultation, he has always asked, like every single time he's asked if I had any more questions, and then he would answer the questions, and then he would still ask again, like, do you have any more questions or anything else I can help you with? So I've never felt like he didn't want to answer anything, or was like, I don't know, like didn't want to give me his time or anything like that. I've always felt like he was happy to talk to me as long as I needed him to answer my questions, to make sure I was satisfied with whatever responses that I got. And also really appreciate that he's not condescending when he talks to you, which I've been to a lot of doctors over the years throughout my life for various medical things. I've gone to all kinds of different specialists and stuff like that. And there are a lot of doctors who are very condescending. And I say this, I come from a family of doctors, so I'm not knocking doctors in any way, but a lot of doctors, and it's not even like, they're not even like trying to be like a jerk about it or anything. It's just they don't always really expect you to understand things, or like expect you to be on the level that they can really talk to you about medical stuff, which I'm sure there are a lot of patients who like that, who don't really want to know all the details of stuff. But for me personally, I like to know what's going on. If I'm asking a medical question, I want to get a medical answer. So that's how Dr. Garramone has been with me. Like, I've asked him questions and he has not like been afraid to explain things and to use medical terminology with me and stuff. It's not like he gets like super technical where I don't know what he's talking about, but I don't feel like he has been kind of like, I don't know, like dumbing stuff down or like acting like I wouldn't understand or like that he didn't want to bother to explain it to me or anything like that. I have always felt like he has been happy to explain things. I don't know, like I just have gotten a really good sense of like feeling like he is respectful of his patients and happy to answer anything. Also, just the fact that I'm able to call him with questions and have him like do an appointment with me is, I really appreciate that, because there are doctors who basically like once you've done the surgery with them, they're like, all right, see ya, like I'm done with you, and like they don't want to do anything after that. And that hasn't at all been my experience with him. I'm able to, like, I haven't needed to do this in a little while, but several times after the surgery, I was able to send in pictures, email pictures in, and also talk to him on the phone about different things that I was concerned about or just had questions about. And like none of that was something I was charged extra for or anything like that. You know, it's just like part of the, basically like the aftercare or like the post-op care that that I've gotten from him. Like I said, not all doctors do that. I mean, they should, but they don't. So it's nice that he does. And I've been really satisfied with that. As far as other aspects of his personality, I've heard a lot of people call him robotic. Like that's a word that I've heard a lot. And I feel like that idea probably comes from the fact that he does have this kind of script that he goes on when he does the reveal, which a lot of people have seen over and over again because there are so many reveal videos out there. And once you watch a couple of them, you start to like kind of get the script like memorized, because he does say pretty much the same thing every time. It does vary somewhat, like obviously depending on the person, there are different things to talk about. Like with me, I had a concern about like a specific part of my chest and like how things would end up and everything like that at my pre-op appointment. So at my post-op, we talked about that a little bit and just some other stuff like that. So it does vary, like, depending on the person. It's not like he just goes in and, like, rattles it off and then just, like, leaves or something. But, you know, as far as the aftercare instructions and stuff like that, it's pretty much the same thing for everybody. The reason for that is because the aftercare instructions are pretty much the same for everybody. So to me, it's not really, like a negative thing. Like, I don't know, like, if I were doing the same thing over and over again, like, one after the other, like that, week after week, I'm sure I would say things the same way too. Like when you just do the same thing over and over again in a job, like it's just a lot easier and a lot more efficient to make sure that you're giving all the information if you do it the same way every time. Like that just seems kind of like, I don't know, just like seems like it makes sense to me. So I don't really see that as him being robotic. It's just like, that's just how things are when you do them over and over again. You tend to kind of get in a flow and not really think about it that much. Like in my videos, I do my little like intro and outro this pretty much the same way every time. Like it varies a little bit if it needs to, but I don't really even think about it. I just kind of like say it. And I mean, that's like a minor example, but just things that you do over and over again, that you say over and over again, you tend to say it the same way every time, just because it's easier. And like, why would you like go out of your way to like make things harder on yourself and possibly forget things that are important to say if you can just say it the same way every time and cover everything. And I actually kind of appreciate that he does that, because I then was able to, like, by the time I had my post-op appointment, I pretty much knew what he was going to say. So I pretty much already knew like all the aftercare instructions that I needed to know. Even aside from kind of the professional aspect of answering questions and stuff, he's just a really friendly guy. Like, when I went into my, on the surgery day, when he came in to mark me up and everything, he was talking about going with his son to Halloween Horror Nights, because he knew that I lived near Orlando. I've just found him really easy to talk to and just like a really nice and friendly and really down-to-earth guy. It was kind of the opposite of what I expected going in based on what I had heard about him, or like these kind of things that I'd heard about him being like not having a good bedside manner or being robotic or whatever. I honestly don't know where those things come from, because that's not at all the experience that I had with him. And then as far as both him and his team there, which his office manager, Kelly, is also his wife, and so she is super nice, and then the other person in the office is Jody, who's also super nice. They're both great. I loved both of them, and I had to talk to both of them several times before my surgery because, as you may know if you watched me at that point, I had to have a mammogram before my surgery because I was over 35, and that was just a requirement that he has. So there were some irregularities found in my mammogram, and so then I had to have all this extra stuff done. I had to have all these ultrasounds and biopsies and everything. It delayed my surgery by a week, and so it was super stressful, and I was really like kind of scared at first that that because I was having to delay my surgery, that I was going to have to like pay more, or there was going to be, I don't know, like I just didn't know how it was going to work. And like I was just really stressed out about the whole thing. And they made it really easy for me. They were very reassuring and like didn't, reassured me that this happens not infrequently and that like it's totally fine. And they were able to schedule me for the next week, and it was like totally smooth and everything. And I really appreciated that because it was a very stressful week, very stressful few days that I was kind of going through all of this and kind of frantic about like all the thousands of dollars that I was spending on all of this, and the additional money that I was now having to spend on all of this radiology stuff and everything. So having his office staff make things easier and just be so nice and kind about everything was really helpful to me. And then again, after surgery, I've talked to them a few times because like in order to schedule my phone consultations with him and everything, like I've gone through them and like sent them pictures and stuff like that. And they've been really helpful, super nice. They're just all really great in the office. And this isn't really like about Dr. Garramone himself, but the surgery center that he uses, everybody there was also super nice. I had a fantastic experience there. I was really sick that day. I had a really, really, really bad migraine, and I was like throwing up all day, and it was really bad. But everybody there went out of their way to take care of me, to make sure I was as comfortable as possible, and it was just like a great experience. Not in the sense of how I felt at the time, but emotionally it was a great experience. They made everything a lot easier. And so again, that's not exactly like up to Dr. Garramone, but that is the surgery center that he is affiliated with. So, if you go to him, that's probably where you're going to go. I think he does also do surgeries at the hospital there, which is a little bit different. But as far as the outpatient surgery center, I had a great experience there. The one quibble I do have with him, or with my experience with him, is that there is a lot of waiting involved, which probably goes along with the fact that he does give so much of his time to his patients. Like he doesn't rush off the phone or try to kick you out of the exam room really fast or anything. He does take his time to answer your questions and everything. So when you have an appointment scheduled with him, it's probably not going to be at that time. Like most of the appointments that I've had with him most of them have actually been like a couple hours after they were supposed to be, which isn't very convenient. But in the grand scheme of things, for me at least, that was an okay trade-off. It's kind of inconvenient and kind of annoying, but for everything else to be so great, and for my results to be so great, and for me to just be like overall really satisfied with having chosen him, which I very much am, like that was not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, I am very, very satisfied with him. I'm sure there are other surgeons I could have gone to that I would have been happy with the results, but I can't really imagine having a better experience than the one that I had with Dr. Garramone. So I'm really glad that I chose him. I'm glad that I chose him and that I was able to make it happen to go to him, because like I said, I kind of wanted to go to him from the beginning, but thought that it wasn't possible and kind of thought I would like settle for something else. And I'm really glad that I didn't do that. I'm glad that I waited until I was able to save up enough to go to Dr. Garramone. And also I was very fortunate to have my mom taking care of me and helping with some of the costs of like lodging and stuff like that, and cooking for me and stuff like that. So I was very fortunate in that regard. But I am very glad that I went to him, and couldn't be happier. If you have any questions about my experience with him, or really anything at all, you can leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to see more of my future content, and also hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.